Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of In the Zone. I am Anthony Pagniello, joined as always by Giancarlo Aulino, Chris Martelli. Boys, it's going to be a similar episode to last week. Got the NBA free agency, basically just going to run through all the moves. There's a fucking ton of moves that went down yesterday. Going to get to all the main ones. We hope. We do tend to miss a lot, but we're going to get right into it here. I got to start with Kyle Lowry, because it just seems like we talk about it every single week, probably for the last year or so. And it finally happened. Kyle Lowry's moving on from Toronto. He signed a 3-year deal with the Miami Heat. So, Chris, I'm going to kick it to you right away. What does this do for the Heat? And what did Kyle Lowry mean to you over the last 9 years?
Well, if there's one thing that a lot of people didn't know about me, it's that basketball to me was always a secondary kind of sport. But over the years, I want to say maybe 2014, 2015, it kind of started becoming a 1A, 1B. So Kyle Lowry and DeMar, like over the years, they really brought the love of basketball into my life, and I think it was just because of the heart that they brought, the drive, and obviously the success behind it. Kyle Lowry, man, this guy needs a statue. He's the greatest Raptor ever. I saw the stats the other day. He's almost number one in every single statistical category. You could call him the LeBron James of Toronto if you really want. I mean, calling him LeBron James is probably a little bit far-fetched, but what he's done for this city, it's way too much to comprehend and just talk about in this pod alone. So it's a very sad day for all of us, obviously. He's been a key part of this team for the last 9 years. When he first came here, it seemed like he didn't want to be here, but then when he bought into the system, it was a perfect match. And, him going to Miami, I'm really happy for Miami because, again, 2 years ago, you go to the finals. It's looking good. And then last year, they had their problems. A lot of people were saying they were fatigued. They got swept by Milwaukee this year, and, of course, Milwaukee ended up winning. But I think this is great. I mean, Stephen A, basically, you guys were saying before, he didn't really like the move. I don't like the term. I don't like 3 years for Kyle. I think that might be a little too long, but in order to buy in, sometimes you have to give the guy a little longer. So I like it for Miami overall. I think you obviously get a winning point guard here. In terms of IQ, he's probably just below Chris Paul in that regard. So Kyle Lowry to me is one of the best point guards in this league. I'm not going to say of all time. He's probably a top 20 point guard of all time, but man, what this guy did for Toronto, absolutely incredible. And what he can only do in Miami, we just got to wait and see, but definitely a playoff team and arguably contenders next year for sure.
Yeah, I think you explained it perfectly. When he was drafted, or not drafted, when he was traded here, a lot of people fail to remember, it wasn't always this extremely positive Kyle Lowry coming in and this great tenure. It started off where oh, he's going to be a part of a trade. Don't get comfortable. Don't look for homes in Toronto. You're out the door soon. There was that deal with the Knicks that fell through because they didn't want to lose even more than they already did to Toronto from the Bargnani trade. So they just said, you know what, we'll think about it after. And then Lowry and DeRozan end up getting this great chemistry. Valanciunas was a young player. He came along, and Terrence Ross was there at the time. And that's when they had that great run there. Surprised everyone, made the playoffs. And then that's when they started building. So it started off on the wrong foot, but luckily they got things turned around. Him and DeRozan had a great tenure here. DeRozan was probably arguably the better player during that early stretch, and then Lowry turned into a leader, and then they win the championship. So he earned that right to go wherever he wanted, kind of like what Kawhi did. So he'll definitely be acknowledged when he comes back, number retired, the whole deal. But I'm surprised he went to Miami because I think the better fit would have been New Orleans, going with Zion, Brendan Ingram. It would have allowed him to play a little differently, but going to Miami, I think he's putting more pressure on himself to be the dominant point guard. He's going to have to put up numbers. He's going to have to kind of produce what he did in Toronto in Miami. Jimmy Butler's not going to always have that same level of production. He's going to get hurt. He's going to get tired because he plays so much. But I think if Bam Adebayo can turn into that all-star like superstar center that he's shown flashes of, especially in that bubble, then maybe this turns into a really good Miami team that can contend for a championship. But right now, I think they might have a tough time getting past Brooklyn and Milwaukee. So I just see them being in the top 4 in the East right now.
The rumors about Lowry were actually getting crazy. For the longest time, it was he's probably going to stay in Toronto. Oh, the one place he's going to go to would be Philly. Oh, if he could just sign with the Clippers, that would be ideal. And then New Orleans and Dallas and teams like, and then Miami came into the mix later. So you guys said it perfectly. Like, I think it's stating the obvious, but he's got the best story as a Raptor coming in with all of the. He was kind of a problem point guard. No one knew if he'd be a starter in this league, and there's so many questions. And then fast forward years later, he's an all-star, multiple-time all-star, and he's a champion. So I think everyone came to terms with Lowry being on the way out. We just wanted him to get the most money he can. And he got 30 mil per, so that's awesome. But sticking with the Miami Heat, because this one fucking throws me off. Duncan Robinson got a 5-year contract. Chris, where the hell did that come from?
It's the awesome shooting that he brings. I remember last year watching Christmas Day, he dropped 9 threes, the opening game. And what he can bring for this team, it's versatility. There's not a lot of guys in the league that can shoot the three like Duncan Robinson. And yeah, he kind of came out of nowhere. And I remember when Matt Thomas was on the Raps, we were kind of joking about if Matt Thomas can just be like Duncan Robinson, we'll be okay. But Duncan Robinson, man, this guy is going to be very, very valuable to Miami. I don't know if the 5-year is appropriate, though. That's a long time, especially in basketball. 5 years seems like 8 years because everyone moves every year. So Duncan Robinson being on this team for another 5 years, 18 mil per at 90 mil. It's pretty good. It's about what Gallinari, I think it was Gallinari. It was about what he got last year in terms of salary, but I love it for Miami. I love it for Duncan. He kind of deserved it. I don't know about the 5 years. I don't know how that's going to work out with the emergence of guys like Tyler Hero down the stretch, but if this definitely signifies, I think Miami, they see Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero potentially being kind of like a Splash Brothers 2.0 because we both know that these guys can shoot, and late in games, threes can win you big-time ball games. Just ask Ray Allen about that. So Duncan Robinson, I think the 5-year, it might be a little too much, but, man, this guy brings value to this Miami team for sure.
I think they honestly panicked a little bit. I think they were trying to get DeRozan and Lowry, and I think when they missed out on DeRozan, maybe he felt that Chicago offered him a better fit. A lot of them play his game more. He suits their style of play. I think Miami saw, like, okay, we have Tyler Hero here. He can come off the bench, and that's who we can rely on for threes because, like, Jimmy Butler can shoot them sometimes, but Lowry is going to be relied on to get the threes. Duncan Robinson's a three-point guy. Hero's a three-point guy. DeRozan isn't. So I think they would have rather have DeRozan, but because they didn't, they looked at, okay, Duncan Robinson, we can't let him go. We're going to need him now. So I think that's when he said, okay, you're going to have to pay up. And that's kind of what happened here. So I'm going to go, like, he's a good fit, but I think he'll be looked at as a trade option down the line if they're looking at competing with Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Philly, even depending on what the standings look like. He's going to be the guy that they dangle in front of other teams to get some help.
Threw me off too. I feel like it was a panic move. Basically what you said, like they lost out on DeMar and then they gave $90 million to the guy no one knew his fucking name 2 years ago. But I basically just look at Tyler Hero and I thought, like, that would be the guy to save over Duncan if you had to choose between the two. And they decided to give Duncan the big deal already. So I'm kind of curious to see what's going to give a few years down the line. Because, yeah, you guys brought up Lowry and Butler. Butler maxed out again. So we'll see. And they signed a little low-key deal, but they signed PJ Tucker to cap it all off. So, yeah, the Miami Heat now, they were good before, but I think they're a threat within the East. So, yeah, they had a solid week. I think we should go now. I think it's time we waited long enough. We have to go to LA because they made a ton of fucking moves. And to start with the obvious, we're going to have to go with Russell Westbrook, joining LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So, Aulino, holy shit. Where does this put the Lakers after all that?
I'm a little I don't know. I don't want to say championship because I don't know what Laker team we're going to get. I think this could be either a really good move or all these moves can turn into be a real disaster and we're all going to watch a circus because Westbrook likes to get triple doubles, go for rebounds. LeBron's going to get rebounds. Anthony Davis, you don't know what you're going to get with him, how many games he's going to play. You got Dwight Howard coming in, so that's a good center upgrade from Drummond, which I never thought I'd say at this point because Drummond should be one of the best centers, and he's declined a lot. And now you bring in Melo on top of that, who wants to get shots. He doesn't just want to be off the bench. He actually wants to play a big role. And Ellington and Ariza, those are nice pieces. Gasol's still there, so I don't know. This is going to be a tough one. As the season goes, they're definitely going to have the rough patches. Westbrook's going to get triple-doubles galore. It's just who you're going to rely on after when you need shots, and none of them are going in from three. You're going to really need Melo to step up off the bench, and if he's going to handle that, I don't know, because some nights he might not even play as much as like some of the other guys, depending on what the score is, if they need defensive help. So this could be a disaster going forward.
I'll say they win the chip next year, and I think I think it's a layup. You have Russell Westbrook. A lot of people were saying this guy was shit, going into this year, and this guy drops a triple-double basically and looking like 2016 Russell Westbrook. If this guy remotely improved his three-point shot, we would have another MVP-type season in the works. This is going to be the year where LeBron James takes a huge step back in offensive numbers, and it's not his fault. It's going to be eye-opening. I'm going to predict he averages maybe just over 20, LeBron, and he'll be that guy where he'll probably average like 29 and 9, and Russ will probably average like 23, 11, and 12. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like you said, Aulino, it's only one basketball. We'll see how that goes. But in terms of star power, they got their guy here in Russ. What he did with Bradley Beal, like the fact that Russ even dragged them to the play-in round, that was absolutely impressive. After I think they lost like 14 in a row in the beginning of the year. So if Russ can even translate that on this Lakers team, man, it just screams at least I want to say conference final for sure with this team, because even AD last year was kind of a wash of a year for him. He's going to be proven and motivated. Same with LeBron. So I got them winning the chip. My favorite move out of all of them, though, is getting Melo. I think this guy coming off the bench, he's going to be lights out. I think he's also going to be motivated. LeBron and Melo in the sunset together, trying to get that last chip. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Also for Russell Westbrook getting his first. This is just the makings of an awesome narrative. So I'm going to go with the Lakers. They're going to win the chip next year for sure.
Oh, man.
Over or under? Davis, Westbrook, and LeBron play more than 15 games together in the regular season.
That's a big fat under.
I'll say 11. And that's including the rest games and injuries.
Oh my God. Yeah, I look at some of the guys on this team. I feel like Kendrick Nunn's going to be one of those. He's going to play they're going to play Sacramento, and he's going to play the whole fucking game. They're going to be like, Russ and LeBron, don't you worry. You take it easy. We're resting you three up for the playoffs. But yeah, I really don't have much to add to that. I see where you're coming from, Aulino, just because obviously Russ is a triple-double machine, so I'm just kind of curious to see how he would fit in LeBron's system, because LeBron kind of sucks you into his offense and makes you play his way. So obviously on paper, when you look at it, it's fucking killer, but it could go south. I'm not saying they're going to win the chip like that, but they had a very similar offseason when they basically signed Harrell, and they signed like 3 or 4 other solid bench players. So they basically did the same thing. They brought in Russ, and yeah, they're right there. I don't think they're going to win. They're competing with the Nets, but yeah, Lakers are going to be right there again. And the Warriors.
They got Clay back, and they're probably getting our guy Iguodala back too. They're getting the band back together. But even looking at that, how the Lakers work, every team with LeBron, who's the scapegoat once they probably lose in the second round?
Who's the scapegoat? Oh my.
Who's getting thrown out after this year? Is it Russ? Because of or
no, it's yeah, it's probably Russell Westbrook.
and then the headlines will be like, oh, it couldn't work. They tried to get him to play team ball, and you know how the LA media will work. They'll probably blame Westbrook, poor guy, and he'll go to the Clippers.
Well, out of the big three, it's for sure Russ. For sure, because Davis and LeBron have won a chip before. So they're going to easily say, well, it's Russ. He's the problem. He's always been the problem. He's never won a chip. So there you go. I feel like that's what the casuals will say. But in terms of this team, man, like you really don't know what to expect. Because LeBron, even last year, you could kind of see he was kind of slowly declining in terms of his athleticism and how hard he goes. But his 3-point shot was looking a lot better last year. So if this guy can just maybe become a shooter LeBron, and then you have Russ be the more athletic freak and dominate, and then you have Russ giving easy fucking passes in the paint to Davis. I'm going to call it now. I think Davis averages the most dunks next year. I'm going to say that. Russ just running in, laying it to him, and he just dunks it in. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be scary. I think the Lakers they're set for something great here. Obviously, they're fan favorites now, especially with these three, and of course a guy like Carmelo. Everybody wants that guy to win a chip. So I'm all in with the Lakers this year. I think they're going to win the chip. I'm saying it. I'm that confident. I think they're going to win. I think this big three, they're not as good when you look on paper as the Brooklyn big three, at least right now. But man, this team athletically, oh God, they're just a big fat problem.
Aulino, I saw briefly before you put the graphic up for a second. Is it time we go to that team now? Because I'm just going through the list of names here.
Before we get there, what do you think about the Clippers going into next year? Do you think Kawhi is are you surprised he opted out knowing he's going to play probably in January? And why would you opt out of $36 million unless you're looking at or entertaining other offers? Could they be worried here?
Maybe a little. I think they should be. But at the same time, I feel like Kawhi's just trying to get some more money, if I'm being honest. Could you just imagine for a second if he fucking leaves them high and dry after trading, I can't remember how many first rounders, we'll say 6 to 8, and Shai Gilgeous, and you're left with Paul George, and that's nice and they'll be competitive, but that's not why you brought them there. So if Kawhi were to leave LA, maybe don't come back after that.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. Kawhi is slowly turning into the villain in the NBA, and it's not even like, I don't even think he means to do it. It's just the way that everything is kind of panned out. Like in 2015-16, when people were starting to say, well, this guy won the finals MVP. Why is this guy sitting out? You know, he's causing a stir in the Spurs organization where there's never really been a problem there. And, people were starting to, this guy's a crybaby. He wants everything his way. And then, of course, he gets traded to the Raps, gets the chip, and then all of a sudden now he's getting injured. He wants he wants ownership of teams. He wants the salary. He's opting out way too soon. And I don't see him staying, man. And I'm going to be dead. I don't think he's staying in LA. I think just based off of what we've seen last year, this year, there's something wrong there. I don't see the passion in Kawhi that I did see in Toronto. I don't see the heart. I mean, he's going out there and he's putting up career numbers, but he's only doing it because he's basically the only option. It's like him and Paul George. Like, I love Zubac, I love Beverly, I love those type of guys, but offensively, they're not at that same level of guys like Siakam or and Kyle Lowry. So I think in terms of him enjoying the game of basketball, he hasn't enjoyed it that much in LA. So I wouldn't be surprised if he opts out, maybe goes to Dallas, aligns with Luka Doncic, because if I really noticed anything about this free agency, with the max deal that Jimmy Butler potentially got, I think that rules out Kawhi going to Miami. So unless they trade Bam Adebayo, but I still think Kawhi is going to go to Dallas when this is all said and done.
Yo, Aulino, he should give them one more year in LA, especially after the playoffs that Paul George just had. I know no one likes the moral victories, but it is the first time they went to the conference finals, and he kept them in it. He balled the fuck out, especially late in the playoffs. So the questions always come up like, oh, if they had Kawhi, they could have done this, and injuries really fucked up the playoffs this year. But man, he should give them one more year, just one more.
Yeah, would be interesting. I still think he should go to Dallas and play with Doncic. That would be a nice middle finger to San Antonio and LA. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, you wanted the graphic here of the new look Bulls.
Time.
There it is.
We got to get to your boy there on the left. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Zach LaVine?
Oh, right in the fucking middle. Oh, yeah. Alrighty, so.
Oh, my God.
We like to make fun of the Bulls. That's probably not going to happen today.
Nah. You like to make fun of the Bulls. I don't make fun of the Bulls.
I love to make fun of the Bulls. I love it. Love that Zach LaVine. Aulino likes to make fun of him. That's still a mystery to me and Chris. But, yeah, we're running through this lineup here. They get Lonzo Ball. They were the sweepstake winners for him. I heard half the league wanted Lonzo Ball. Chicago ends up landing him. DeMar DeRozan ends up signing. So that's a nice wing position there. Lowry Markkinen is still in your lineup, and Vucevic they acquired late last year. Kobe White's projected to be your sixth man. They signed Alex Caruso to a 4-year deal. Another year of Patrick Williams, who they drafted 4th overall. This is a team now, like, they were arguable for the play-in last year. Now you look going into this year, they might be like a 6-7 seed. So the Eastern Conference continues to get more competitive with DeRozan and Lonzo. And I'll throw Vooch in there going to the Bulls. What does this do for the Chicago Bulls now?
Oh, it absolutely, yeah, like you said, they went from being a play-in team, arguably, to now, I don't want to say easily a playoff team, but a lot of people want to just assume that. What DeMar did this year alone for San Antonio was, I think he kind of outplayed what a lot of people were expecting. I remember when we did the predictions last year, I think I had San Antonio like 14th, and they came, I think, 12th or 11th, but at times they were battling for the play-in round, and you got to respect DeMar for that. He had, I think, one of the better all-around statistical years of his career. Greg Popovich, I'm really happy the way he coached DeMar. He basically said, listen, I'm not gonna tell you to shoot the three. That's not your game. That's never been your game. So I think it was like last year or 2 years ago, this guy was like barely shooting the three. I think he shot maybe like 27%, but the numbers, like the amount that he took was probably the lowest of his career last year. So we know what we're going to get from DeMar. He's the mid-range god. He's one of the more aggressive threes that I can remember. Zach LaVine he's just a gifted scorer. This guy can score from anywhere. But what Lonzo Ball brings to this team is that flexibility at that playmaking spot, and it can ease off a shit ton of pressure off of guys like Vucevic in terms of the playmaking ability, guys like Kobe White, who a lot of people for some reason they've really wanted him to be a Chris Paul, and that's just not going to happen. So he'll average like 6 assists at most, Kobe White. I want to say he's more of a 2-guard, just the way he plays, but he still is a thrifty playmaker, not at Lonzo's level. So I love it for this team, man. I think this team, they're arguably one of the best winners so far in this free agency. DeMar's your oldest player at 31. That's just incredible. Vucevic is 30. Everyone else is well under 20. Well under 30. So, Zach LaVine is your superstar player here. DeMar DeRozan he's that all-star veteran, and like Lonzo Ball, I've never said he's an all-star player, but maybe now playing with a guy like Zach LaVine, maybe he can be an all-star this year. But yeah, this team, there's a lot of mysteries here. There's a lot of potential, but Pagniello, we can't be making fun of this team anymore. This team is for real.
Yeah, I think this team is probably going to give Atlanta a run for that 4th spot in the East. I have high hopes for the Bulls now. You have Vucevic, who for years was just carrying Orlando to 8th seed every single year. He was the only guy on that team that you can stick out and say he's a star. Now he goes to Chicago, and LaVine is there too, scoring points, being that guy, but mediocre group all around. They had nobody else. Now you bring in Lonzo and DeRozan. I think that's a solid group. If they don't, like, I don't know Lonzo's game here. I think he actually, like, if I'm New Orleans, I'm looking at management, like, why'd you let this guy go in a sign and trade? I think he played well with Zion, Ingram too. They had that chemistry. So I think that's another one they'll regret, kind of like Julius Randle. Now he's on the Bulls. I think we'll see the best of Lonzo. He meshes well, I think, with DeRozan's type of game, mid-range. And, yeah, I think Chicago's going to be a really good team. You add them in the mix there with the Knicks, Brooklyn, Philly, Milwaukee. I think the East is probably a lot better than it has been in recent years. You don't know what kind of team the Raptors will be, but Miami's also there. Orlando's out of the playoffs as usual. Washington will be out of the playoffs like usual. So I think there's a solid 8 teams in here. It won't be the same quality of the West, but the East will definitely be one to watch this year.
I was kind of surprised they didn't make an offer to Lonzo. I thought he had a nice setup there in New Orleans. But I like the setup here in Chicago, but statistically, it's probably going to take a hit. Like you were just saying, like Vooch and DeMar are literally stat machines since they've come into the league, and Levine's their guy over there. So, but similar to Russ and LeBron, Chris, I'm kind of curious. How are Levine and DeRozan going to be together? Because they play a kind of that isolated, similar game. So I'm kind of curious with this duo too. If it might go south. Do you think so? There's a chance.
The only unfortunate thing that sucks about this whole thing is if it were to go south, it's because of Zach LaVine. It's not because of DeMar DeRozan. He's going to go to this team and he's going to know what his role is. I'll say, I don't even think he's going to expect to get 20 points, DeRozan. I'll say maybe like 18, 19, because Zach LaVine, man, like last year he averaged like 28, something like that. Like this guy is one of the best scorers in the NBA. So he's going to be the guy that's always going to want the ball. I think DeMar's going to start to understand that, he's a third option, I think, at best at this stage in his career. He can't be coming to Chicago and just wanting that first option. It's just not happening with Zach LaVine there. There's obviously going to be, a few, miscommunications with LaVine and DeRozan for sure, but I don't think it's going to get to a point where they need to trade one of them. We almost had that already in Chicago, and I think with a coach like Billy Donovan, I think he's been the guy ever since he went over. Because remember when Zach LaVine had his old coach and they were on such bad terms. And then Billy Donovan comes over and Zach LaVine right away just bought in. So I think Billy Donovan's going to be the reason that this team is as successful as they're going to be. And DeMar DeRozan, guys, we've seen it with the Raptors, especially when the Raptors were a team that were just coming up. This guy is one of the best underrated leaders by far in the league, DeMar DeRozan. So I don't see a lot of animosity or a lot of miscommunication here. When it does happen with everybody. But I think DeMar DeRozan, this guy, he's going to be one of the best leaders this year. We're all going to see it.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is where Lonzo comes in, and he's perfect for the team because he's going to find those guys with his passing. And this is another reason why I think they got him. You have him come in the mix, and he doesn't have to have that pressure of being like a 25-point guy. He can come in and play his role similar to DeRozan. So I think Chicago's going to be fine. I think LeVar's going to be torn because his son plays for Michael Jordan in Charlotte, and now his other son plays on the team that Michael Jordan made famous. So you can't say that Lonzo's better than MJ anymore because if he says that, LaMelo's going to pay. So LeVar has to keep quiet a little bit, and I think should be fun when they play each other. When Charlotte goes to Chicago and Chicago goes to Charlotte, we'll see him as a focal point, but gotta love Lonzo. He didn't go to Charlotte, which I thought would have been the perfect move, but Chicago's the next best thing.
I also think, too, like going back to what you said about LaVine and DeRozan, I think even him playing with Popovich, like that's just best case scenario. If you're Zach LaVine, like that at times you don't get along with your coach, and now you have the oldest guy on your team coming over from San Antonio who was coached by Greg Popovich for the last 2 years, and DeMar was the main leader there. So in probably one of the most respected franchises of all time. So I think LaVine now, even though he's the number one option still, he knows that for the most part, he's going to have to probably keep his mouth shut because DeMar is going to come over to this team, be the number one leader, but not the number one option.
So, like, after the Nets and the Bucks, is it pretty much like everything's up for grabs at that point? It seems that way now.
I'll say, like, so you have three tiers. I'll say, so you have the Nets and the Bucks in the top tier. The second tier after that is like the Heat, the Sixers, and probably I want to say the Pacers on paper. And then you have like the Bulls, the Hawks, I guess the Knicks. Yeah, and then after that it's basically everyone go and fight for it.
No, the Knicks I think are going to be a low-key powerhouse. You got Kemba Walker joining that group. Derrick Rose stays, and got Julius Randle, a finalist there for the MVP. RJ Barrett, another year of development. I think the Knicks might actually, I don't know. I think Atlanta, even though they made it like really far, I just think the Knicks might just pass them this year. I think Atlanta caught something. Trae Young got hot. He's going to have another amazing year, but an overall team game, I think the Knicks might take that spot. Fifth spot there. Chicago will be fourth, and it's going to be a battle again. The Knicks and Bulls rivalry, I think, is going to get renewed. Atlanta might slip a bit in the standings, but they might get a favorable matchup. So the East is going to be popping this year. It's going to be fun.
For me, it's honestly the Nets, the Bucks, 1, 2. I don't care which one, and then like 6, 7 teams. I feel like 6 or 7 teams can take the third spot. Maybe the Bulls if everything goes right. More on the no side, probably leaning towards like Philly or Miami. But you're bringing up the Knicks and you're pissing me off because now I'm going to run through their team. And I'm not with you there. I don't like it. And they made the one signing, and I guess we're going to talk about it now. Evan Fournier gets a 4-year contract. I don't know. I thought RJ Barrett was nice in that spot. I thought they could have done without it. But Chris, what the fuck is that contract? Why did they sign him to that?
I think it's because of when they beat freaking USA in the Olympics. I want to say that's one of the big reasons why. I've always liked Fournier. I've never really disliked him. We had him in our top 10 shooting guards as I think an honorable mention. Like he's always been consistent, but yeah, coming to this team and taking over arguably taking the starting 2 spot over Barrett, it's kind of, I don't want to say concerning, but I mean, I guess they're going all in with RJ Barrett being the 3 and I guess trading Toppin. Because I mean, it's crazy. I don't really see this team sticking with Obi Toppin, and they just drafted him. He was supposed to be their 4th option. He's already 23 years old, Toppin too, so he was an overager. They got Nerlens Noel for relatively really cheap too, so they can put him at the 5. They also re-signed Taj Gibson. But yeah, it looks like they're going with Alex Burke as like the 6th man, and you're gonna have Derrick Rose and Evan Fournier run the backcourt, and then Barrett, Randall, and Nerlens Noel to start the year because of Mitchell Robinson's injury. So, what was the contract? Was it like $70 million? How much was it?
You got $19 million for 4 years.
Yeah, that's a little bit much. I've always loved Fournier though. Kind of like with what Duncan Robinson is valued. I want to say he's not at that level. Maybe a little under that, but yeah, Evan Fournier's consistency is what will make this contract look not so bad. Like when guys like Barrett, Derrick Rose, even like Emmanuel Quickly, like when those guys are not shooting well, a guy like Evan Fournier and a guy like Alex Burke can just come in and they can drain the threes on probably the most consistently out of any guy on this team. So yeah, you know what? Like for now, we're going to wait and see with the Evan Fournier signing, but you know what, for now I don't think it really hurts anybody. He looked pretty solid even going to Boston on a different system. So let's see what he does here. I like it, but the term, it's tough. 4 years, that's a long time.
I'm not really with you on the Boston one. I didn't think he was that good in Boston. I didn't think he's a nice player. Like he's a walking bucket. He'll get you like in between 13 and 17. I'm just surprised the Knicks were the team to do that because they're always rumored to get a top 5 player in the league, if not. So, but like if Kemba Walker were to go there, it's not really official yet. Kind of still waiting because they did buy him out. But that would be a game changer. we were saying it when he was still with OKC. Like, if he could stay healthy, I think the three of us still have faith that he would still average like around 20. I'm not really sure what the hell happened to him the last year, but I don't know why everyone's writing him off, but he could still be an elite player in this league. So him on New York would be pretty sweet, don't you think?
Would be.
Yeah, it would be.
What else we got? I'm looking at some of the names here. It's a lot of the lesser teams. We got to get to them, though, because they're high-profile names. Spencer Dinwiddie elected to leave Brooklyn, and he's starting in Washington. No contest. So when you go through that lineup, oof, they look a little different, too, picking up Kyle Kuzma from the Russell Westbrook trade. So doubt they're going to make the playoffs again. But, Aulino, what do we think of the new Washington Wizards?
This is going to be a disaster. And I think it's going to cause Bradley Beal to finally have enough of it and demand a trade. I think him staying there and not asking for a trade and allowing them to really rebuild is probably what's causing them to not have any luck with free agents coming over, because they see it that this year this team's not going to do well, and it's inevitable Bradley Beal will probably not last too long. So Kuzma, like, for all we know, he can have a Julius Randle type year, and we'll forget all about it. But like, I like Montrezl Harrell; he's a good player, but I just don't see this working out. And I think it's a little bit of a downgrade when you don't have Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, you know what? Like, this team, they're on paper, they don't look as bad as you probably think. Like, okay, Bradley Beal is one of the best scorers. Dinwiddie coming off a really scary injury, but he was amazing 2 years ago. Kuzma, I don't really like. I've never really liked him, but again, he's coming to a new team, and we got to wait and see what this guy's going to average. Like, a lot of people think this guy's going to average 22. I think that's just blasphemy. I don't see that happening at all. Hachimura, another year under development. I mean, he's pretty solid. Thomas Bryant came off, I think, an ACL tear, so that's pretty scary. But they drafted Corey Gisbert. This guy, I absolutely love him. He's a 3-and-D type guy. He can shoot the three, lights out. So if this guy can maybe become something, this team maybe in a couple years is not too bad. I'm trying to be as positive as I can be with this team, but for the most part next year, they're probably going to be a bottom 5 team. You have Daniel Gafford, Harrell, and Bryan as your 5. It doesn't sound too bad, but other than that, there are a lot of holes in this lineup. Like KCP, he's always been a pretty decent shooter. It's just been the consistency, not good enough. But yeah, they're point guards like Dinwiddie and Aaron Holiday. We got to wait and see with that. But in terms of, how better the East got, yeah, the Wizards are probably a bottom 3 team in the East, and we're probably going to see Bradley Beal dip maybe next year.
Yeah, like, it's not, when I look at it, it's not terrible. You just said it right there at the last thing. When you look around the Eastern Conference, like, the Bulls got much better. The Knicks are better. The Pacers are better. Like, because I really don't dislike any of these players. I think Dinwiddie's going to have a solid year. It's him and Beal leading the way there. I hope you're wrong on Kuzma. If he does put up like a 13-point year, people are just going to be like, all right, fuck this guy. I like Bertans. He's going to come in, produce, but he's this tough now. So yeah, I definitely don't have them making it, but they'll give you some fits on some nights, I think. But another move here we missed. I think we brought it up before we went live. Devontae Graham signing a 4-year deal with the New Orleans Pelicans. Your team, Charlotte, Aulino. That's your boy walking to New Orleans. How do you like that mix with him and Zion and Ingram over there?
I think it's going to be a little bit more offense than what Lonzo brought. I think Lonzo's more of a balanced type of point guard. So this one is, you're really relying on Devontae Graham to come in and have that offensive breakout where we're really talking about him as a premier point guard. I don't know if he's there yet, but this is a big opportunity. I think the Pelicans need to be successful if they want to, like, tell Zion Williamson, like, we're really committed to winning. I don't know if it's going to work out, But when you look at Charlotte, they still have Rozier, who had a breakout again, and once he left the Celtics, so I think it won't damage them too much. I think Rozier is going to get more minutes. Maybe LaMelo is going to go to shooting guard once in a while, but the only problem I see with Charlotte is Gordon Hayward, because I think even though he played really well when he was healthy, he got injured again, and his contract that came with it, they took a big gamble on that. It worked out early, but it's turning into a liability. So unless they address that, might be another year where they're looking at 7 and 8 spot in the East.
I like it for New Orleans. I think, like they get rid of Lonzo Ball. They're really high on Nickeil Alexander-Walker, clearly. But Graham can be that guy that can play the 1. He can play the 2. He can score lights out whenever he wants. It's a high-risk, high-reward type of move here. If he produces, he can be an MIP. He can average 20 points a game. And if not, then he's a relatively average point guard. So in terms of this is where they're looking at their point guard spot, and they've struggled to get a point guard that can score. So Graham maybe can be that option. I want to say right now he is a better scorer than Lonzo Ball in this league. Brandon Ingram, I think he's going to constantly average like 23, 24. Or Zion, to me, might even be an MVP candidate next year, just based off of what he did this year. He got better in the 3, better at the free throw. His field goal percentage is it's stupid. It was at like 64% last year. So if New Orleans, and if this is the Devontae Graham of 2 years ago, then they absolutely won this deal. But if not, then they're going to just continue to try and find that scoring point guard, kind of like what we've been seeing with Boston the last couple of years. But in terms of Charlotte, I mean, they clearly like Rozier over Graham now. It's the obvious consensus now. Rozier last year had the flat out better year. When LaMelo was down, they relied on Rozier a little more than Devontae Graham, which I remember I think it was us 3 when we were talking about Graham 2 years ago. This guy could probably be their number 1 replacement for Kemba Walker. And then, of course, unfortunately, LaMelo Ball gets drafted there, and then he's the guy there now. So it's just great, I think, for everyone. Graham going to a new team, trying to find that new identity, that scoring touch again. And in terms of Charlotte, they're going with a completely different approach here. They're going with LaMelo. They're going with Miles Bridges. They're going with PJ Washington. They're going young here. I think Bridges is going to take an extra step too this year. I think he's going to average about 19. And I do like what you said, Aulino. I think Gordon Hayward, out of all the guys, even though he had a tremendous year last year, I think he could be the guy that might be on the way out if they try to continue to change and upgrade their identity on this roster.
Chris, was that the deciding factor, though, this past year in trading Graham over Rozier? Because I know Rozier may have had the better year, but I think I would still gamble on Graham the next couple of years.
I think it's based on what they saw in terms of salary, what they saw in terms of potential. Maybe now with LaMelo being at that 1, he was the guy that just maybe Graham said straight up, like, I want to be a number 1, number 2. I want to be a starter on this team. And they flat out said probably, we don't see you being higher in the depth chart than LaMelo and Terry Rozier on a consistent basis. I mean, in terms of age, that's always a gamble. You always, sometimes Graham, the guy that you trade, pans out to be better. But I think in this point, they're looking at experience there. I think Rozier has a couple years in experience. He was a part of that long playoff run with Boston. I think that's another factor that you have to look into is you turn your youth into success. So with LaMelo Ball, you're trying to bring in as many successful guys as you can. And I think that was another factor why they signed Gordon Hayward last year. So I think in terms of what you just mentioned I would take Graham over Rozier. I think I agree there. But in terms of management, I think they saw Rozier and Hayward and what they did together in Boston that year. And I think they really did not want to separate the two for the time being, even though I do think Gordon Hayward might be the guy out very, very shortly.
I like it. Also, they also drafted James Bouknight, so he'll probably step in for them too, like if maybe as soon as this year. But when I run through the Pelicans roster real quick, I still feel like they were, I don't know if it was Lowry, but I feel like they were attacking a big point guard. I don't think they're done. They fucked a lot with their team this year. They got Graham and they traded for JV with Ingram and Zion there. Like, I don't think I like Alexander Walker. He can't really start there, especially at the tough West. So I still feel like they got something up their sleeve there for sure.
Oh man, I completely forgot about the JV deal. All these free agents. Oh man, that's another solid presence, but yeah, they need some more scoring. That's the only thing.
I mean, like you look at the point guards available. I mean, do you circle Kemba Walker there? Do you if you're New Orleans, do you kind of take a gamble because you did say that maybe before the pod went up, you maybe have Kemba go to, the Spurs for 1 year. I mean, if you're New Orleans, are you circling Kemba?
Oh no, Kemba's a Knick now officially.
Oh,
there it is.
Is it? Oh, there you go.
Surprised that didn't happen after our fucking pod finished.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Aulino. It's official.
Kemba. So right now it's Kemba, RJ Barrett. Who else do they have here?
They got Fournier there.
Toppin,
yeah, good. Yeah,
Fournier,
good,
Derrick
solid.
Rose. That's a solid one. Low key. I like that.
If Derrick Rose is your sixth man, that's pretty solid.
You go through the list here, boys. It's a lot of guys re-signing. Oh, no, our boy. How did I miss it? Our boy Kelly Olynyk got a fucking 3-year deal, $37 million from the Detroit Pistons. Let's go. Crisper. We're talking about him. I don't care that he's the bench player.
This guy deserved it, man. This guy averaged like 19, 8, and 7 down the stretch. I remember out of all the guys when they traded everyone, and I remember when they traded Oladipo for Olynyk, basically, I'm like, okay, out of all the guys here, I just assume Christian Wood is just going to spaz out and go off. And I think Wood, I don't think he played that much. It was guys like Olynyk, like Tate, like those guys were going off at the end of the year. I'm really happy for Olynyk. I mean, this guy definitely deserves it. 3 years, though, I don't know. He's going to be a great, reliable bench scorer behind, like we said, I think he's behind Isaiah Stewart. And, of course, who's the guy there? Grant. So it's going to be fun in Detroit. There's no expectations. I mean, I don't think for this year, Killian Hayes and Cunningham as your backcourt, they're both under 22 years old. So the expectations for this team alone, I mean, Detroit, a lot of people are saying it's was it Motorcade? It's now Motorcade in Detroit. So Detroit Rock City, they're going to start rocking soon. Billy Hamilton, shout out to him. Shout out Richard Hamilton. Shout out to Billups, all these guys. I remember when the Pistons were so good. And, them getting Cunningham, it's good to see. But, man, Olynyk, that's your superstar player right there. Coming over here, he averaged 19, 8, and 7. Watch Olynyk be the MIP next year. Just watch.
Can you imagine? He ends up being
hey, man, you know what?
Team.
Hey, Grant goes to this team and averages 23. I mean, anything's possible.
He's gonna fucking eat Wendell Carter alive, and they're gonna kill the Magic. That's basically all I got for the Pistons. 13, 14, something like that. But the East is fun. I think everyone did get better. Maybe not on the same scale, but when you run through up and down the conference, yeah. But, the Pistons are going to be fun. Still kind of putza, but much more entertaining than last year. Are there any other, I guess not high-profile names at this point, but are there any other names you guys want to talk about?
Well, the first one I want to talk about is frickin' Andre Drummond going to Philly. I don't understand that one. He literally said on Twitter or Instagram he wanted more playing time, and then he goes to Philly, who has probably the best center in the league. So that makes no sense. I'll ask you first, Pagniello, what are your thoughts on that? And what do you think they see in Drummond, at least for the year? Because this is either a really, really good pickup or a tremendous flop. So I guess I'll start with you. What do you think on that one?
I think we know all about Andre Drummond. We know what he's going to bring, but like him and Embiid is kind of there are a lot of moves today where I'm like, I was surprised that team made that move. This was another one. I don't know. Like, we're going to see how it works. I still feel like Ben Simmons is on the move because there's not a whole lot of spacing with those three. So, I mean, yeah, kind of threw me off, honestly.
Yeah, this is basically Dwight Howard for Andre Drummond. I don't know how it's going to fit. Drummond and Embiid have had their little rivalry in the past. Now they're teammates. It's going to be interesting. Both going to be in the paint. It's going to be a similar situation when Horford played and Dwight Howard last year. So I think Philly, they got a nice option off the bench in case they need to rest Embiid, but Embiid's playing like 40 minutes a night. I don't think Drummond's taking anyone's spot here.
Yeah, another guy too that I want to quickly talk about was Chris Paul getting $40 million. Or yeah, was it $40 or $30 million a year? 4-year deal, guys, for a 36-year-old. Is that a smart move from Phoenix, or is that just Chris Paul, just him and his agent just absolutely just fleecing them here? Because look, listen, I love Chris Paul. This guy's one of the best point guards I have ever witnessed to play the game. But $40 million for 4 years for a 36-year-old? Can't believe I'm saying this, guys. Overpaid. What are your guys' thoughts on this contract?
Uh-oh. I mean, just off that statement, I mean, it could be, but Big Lowry's in the same situation too. When you look at both of these guys, just how smart they are and how they continue to progress, like they never really relied so much on their athleticism. So as they continue to get older and they get smarter and the game becomes easier for them, I don't really mind these deals. It goes for both Paul and for Lowry. So 4 years, yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. He's getting up there in age, but man, he just keeps getting better. So I thought it'd maybe be a 2-3 year deal, but good for him. Good on his agent for sure.
Yeah, I think this was just Phoenix's way of keeping everyone together, because all the rumors, even from the finals, was like Chris Paul's going to go to the Knicks. He might go to the Lakers. So it actually is it not too bad. Even though the number's a lot, they can still afford it because Aiden and Booker they would have the bird rights, so they can sign to whatever number they want. But yeah, I don't see too many problems with it. The only thing the problem is with Chris Paul, because he's going to see everyone, his buddy Melo, go to the Lakers and join LeBron. So there was his chance there to ring chase. I don't think anyone would have blamed him. He could have went to the East and joined the Brooklyn Nets if he wanted. No one would have blamed him. So this is his way of trying to win it with Phoenix. Good on him. But if they don't do it in the first 2 years, I don't think the last two, once he might start declining, I don't think they'll win it after that.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the guys that have re-signed, I guess I'll bring that up to a couple big guys like Trae Young got the 207 rookie max deal. Gil just got the rookie max deal at 172 million. What are your guys' thoughts on those deals for those young players? And do you think it was the right move for both organizations?
Who was it? Shea and Trae Young?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. I mean, especially when you look at Shea, that's the only jersey that's going to be purchased for the next 10 years over there. So he had a phenomenal rookie year. Obviously, the team's in a rebuilding situation. You look at Atlanta, like the same thing. Trae Young's the guy there. They pretty much could have asked for anything, and I would have been like, yeah, you're leading the way. So a lot of young stars in the league. Those were two guys that you thought would get the money and the max. So I don't think anyone's surprised with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great move. They needed a star there. Gilgeous-Alexander was perfect, considering what they got. He was a throw-in in the trade for Paul George, so keep him locked up as long as possible. He's a superstar in the league. And let's say it doesn't work out in OKC and they decide to relocate back to Seattle, they have somebody to market around, and Gilgeous-Alexander's a guy. So he's definitely going to be the main star over there unless something else happens drastically. But I don't see anything that's going to take Gilgeous-Alexander's production away.
Okay, to end this pod, there's a couple things I need to talk because like Norman Powell, I didn't even know this. He got $90 million. He got the same deal as Duncan Robinson. So I guess I'll start with you guys there. I guess I'll start with you, Pags. Did you like that move for Portland, or do you think it's kind of a gamble with Norman Powell?
Nah, Buddy's a bucket. He was making what before, like 7 to 10, something like that?
Yeah,
Right?
he was making a lot less, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we all knew he'd fucking opt out, especially after the year that he had. I think he's 27, 28 years old. Yeah, he's gonna score. That's what he does. For Norm, I love it. He absolutely deserves it. For Portland, we'll see. I mean, they got a guy who's gonna consistently get you 15 to 25 most nights. So, man, I love it for Norm, man. Good for him.
Yeah, happy for him. He cashed in, deserves it. Last year, put up big numbers. I know Gary Trent is getting more than him, which is a little odd, but good on Norm Powell. Deserves extension there in Portland. At least gives something for those fans to watch because Damian Lillard could be on the way up.
I want to say, I mean, I was looking at the comments after he signed Norman, and everyone's like, "Yeah, CJ's about to go. He's the guy that's gone." I think CJ's gonna be there longer than Dame. I agree. I think Dame is gonna be the guy that's gonna go before CJ. But going to the other side, the Raptors re-signed Gary Trent Jr. to a 3-year, $54 million deal. I'll start with you, Aulino. What are your thoughts on this? And do you see our boy Gary Trent being a big part of this team moving forward?
I hope so. I think we saw some flashes of it last year. I think he's capable of it. He's still young, like, 22, 23. So when he's done the deal, he'll be right into his prime, like his physical prime too. So we're going to see him develop a lot right now. And I think it's good on the Raptors. They locked him up because Lowry's gone and Norman Powell was gone last year. He was in that trade. So it gives him some scoring. It gives him a guy that he's going to take the next step of his career, and we're going to see it.
I think the Raps are pretty much done. They maxed out Fred and Siakam the other year. They locked OG up to 4 years, and now Trent to 3 years. So that's pretty much that for our roster. I mean, you pretty much said it there. The kid's only 22 years old. He's a solid isolation scorer already in this league. So he could start or be the sixth man. I think he's going to fit in beautifully with our team. So 18 mil per, something like that. It's a solid deal for both sides.
Now, I want to quickly talk about two things, and then we'll end this today. The first thing is the Raptors with the draft, passing up on Jalen Suggs, taking Scotty Barnes. Pagniello, I'll start with you. Watch that one together. Were you surprised with the pick, and what do you see Scotty Barnes bringing to this team?
I was surprised they pulled through with it. I know you guys have seen the reports all year. Like the Raptors, they really like Barnes and Kuminga, and we're like, okay, relax. You're taking Suggs if he's there. And when they passed on him, we just looked at each other. We started laughing, and we're like, oh, it would be the Raptors. Masai would be that guy to, I guess, take the one guy you wouldn't expect. But you look at Barnes, 6'9", 220. Kind of positionless. He played point guard, but like he's listed as a power forward right now. So like it's kind of a mystery. I love what he brings. You guys aren't gonna like this, but like I think like Ben Simmons, but like maybe you don't look at the shooting, and the shooting's gonna get better. He's got to work on the shot. The form is there. I think that'll come over time, especially you look at where Siakam and OG's shot has been over the years. So you look at everything else. He's a lockdown defender. Great athleticism, great ball handler. Like the guy's kind of a unicorn type player. I think like even 3-4 years from now, you're still going to be saying, wait another 2-3 years. So I love the pick. He'll step in right away next year, but it's kind of a down the line pick. So I'm gonna give it an A+, boys.
Oh,
yeah. When you're looking at what they have, like looking at the depth chart, they have Malachi Flynn already, who they drafted the year before, Fred VanVleet. So if you get Suggs in there, that's 3 point guards, and already VanVleet's making like 20-something million. So I think they passed up knowing that they have other needs on their roster. I think Barnes steps in, The draft profile was he's a versatile defender. So hopefully he can become like that player, and him and OG together, that could be a solid duo for the Raptors and a good shutdown pair. So I like it right now.
Yeah, I absolutely love the upside of this kid. And when he got drafted, and I'm looking at his physical body too, like this guy probably looks like he's the most NBA pro ready out of any player that got drafted in the top, I want to say top 7. Like Mobley, okay, of course, he's a different type of center. He's that offensive gifted center, and he's lean and thin. And but like, man, when I saw Scotty Barnes and I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, okay, this guy's what, 19 years old, 20 the latest, and like he looks like he's out muscling almost anybody in this draft easily, and maybe even last year's draft. So the fact that like this guy's looking freakish already athletically, the only thing he relatively has to work on is his shot. And we all know for some that's not a big deal, but for others, this guy's saying he's like a Ben Simmons. I really don't like that at all. I want to say more like Draymond Green if everything kind of pans out. The defensive game, it's just he can defend all 5 positions. That's just elite, and it's beautiful in itself. We're already just stacked defensively. So the fact that we're getting Scotty Barnes is just an added bonus and a cherry on top of our defense. I think we'll be one of the best defensive teams in the league for the next 5+ years. But yeah, in terms of next year, Barnes probably won't give you a lot of offensive flexibility, but what he'll bring on the other side of the floor next year, it's probably going to be something that we haven't seen since OG coming in the league. So it's going to be exciting for sure. I don't know if I'll say an A+, but I will say an A for sure. But moving on, I want to quickly end this with, we saw Steph Curry. He's going to get paid again, $214 million for 5 years. They're getting Klay Thompson back. They have Wiggins. They have Wiseman. They just signed Otto Porter. What do you guys see next year for Golden State? Are they going to be a top 4 seed in the West? And are they going to give LeBron and Brooklyn a little bit of a hard time?
Aulino.
Oh man, my thing was muted. Sorry. Yeah, you know what? This team's deep. If they can manage to keep Klay Thompson healthy during training camp and get him to the season this time, this team's going to be scary. Like, you can get all those guys on the Lakers you want. I hope they know how to rebound because that ball is going to be outside that 3-point area the entire game. Their team can't shoot threes really. Like, you're going to count on Carmelo Anthony to get hot, and if he's not, they're screwed. So I think they're going to kill everybody with 3-point shots like they've done in the past. I think they might still trade Wiseman or Wiggins. They'll look at offers out there, but Golden State's an amazing team, and Curry is going to get another $200 million after 4 years, and maybe he'll sign another extension and get another $200 million and cap up the career close to $1 billion in career earnings and salary. So everything's looking good in the Curry household.
You gotta love Steph, the humble superstar. Yeah, as long as him and Klay and Dre are healthy, like, they're right there. They'll give anyone a run for their money. And yeah, you said Wiggins and Wiseman, but like with those two still locked in, I still feel like there's a trade in the works, even though a ton of shit's happened already. So with Steph, Klay, and Dre, regardless of the injuries, absolutely they are right there for sure.
I mean, okay, we've said this for years now, like for a very long time. If Steph Curry could be the greatest point guard of all time, and you're talking about Magic Johnson and all the stuff that he was doing, and obviously you have the greats like Chris Paul, you have Steve Nash, you have John Stockton who leads in assists. And is Steph Curry? Is it safe to say that if he gets you one more chip in Golden State, is he surpassed Magic Johnson, or do you guys still have Magic above Curry? Because, man, right now, I'm not going to lie, I think Steph Curry might be the greatest point guard to ever grace the court.
It's a tough one, just because his career was cut short, and he did win 5 championships, went to the finals, I think 6 or 7 times, so it's tough. Like, completely different era too, but to compare, like, he was on some great teams. Like, Steph Curry didn't win a finals MVP, so if he wins a finals MVP and he's dominant, maybe he's in that conversation, but he's definitely in the mix of like top 5, like somewhere there. Greatest shooter, 100%. Like, there's no debate on that. But in terms of like best at that position, I think he's slightly edged out there.
I think when it's all said and done, though, I think he could be, just because of well, you said it before, his career was cut short, but because of Steph's longevity, he'll have more of those accolades and maybe shit will build up over time. He does have the scoring titles. He's won the steals champ, 2-time MVP of the season. So I think right now I'd still say no, but with a few more years of Steph rolling and building stuff to his resume, when it's all said and done, yeah, sure.
It's just based off what I saw last year alone, I think he was the best player in the league. I want to say when he was like relatively on his game, there was nobody better than him. Jokic was not better. Kevin Durant was not better. Joel Embiid was not better. I think Steph Curry, even last year, when Steve Kerr would kind of talk about it, he'd say, Steph Curry, he's getting older, but physically right now he is the most dominant he's ever been. He's the strongest he's ever been. And you could easily see how that translates. He averaged, 31 last year? And if he can do that this year again, I think they're easily going to be right there with the Lakers. And Steph Curry, he's been one of the most influential guys of all time when you look at changing the game of basketball and what he's been able to accomplish. And again, the fact that he still does not have a finals MVP is just eye-popping to me. So I think he's motivated to get that award in his trophy case. I think if it does happen, he will be GOATed. He will be the greatest point guard of all time. But with that being said, next year, it's going to be fun. The NBA, the East has gotten tremendously more competitive, even though the Bucks and the Nets are the favorites next year. I still think the West is still a lot more competitive. I think Denver, they made a couple pretty good moves. You have the MVP on your team. You have Luka another year in development. We'll see what he can do in Dallas. But for the most part, this was this week's episode talking about NBA free agent frenzy. I know Pagniello, I'll pass it now to you. Do you have anything else to add? I know that we didn't talk about one guy, and I really wanted to talk about this guy. And it's just so funny because this guy, for the longest time, he was being written off on Charlotte. And I got to talk about this guy because no one really knows about him that much, but I've been following this guy for quite some time. He played on Kentucky. Malik Monk. He's a Laker. I really don't know what to expect from this guy, but I'm going to tell you guys right now, this guy could be one of the biggest X factors next year for the Lakers. I'll start with you, Aulino. I know you guys probably don't know a lot about this guy, but Malik Monk joining the Lakers, I think he's a walking bucket. What do you think he does for this team?
Warm up the bench. He'll come in when the other guys need a rest, when they're resting them on the off games like we were talking about before with like guys coming off the bench and they're going to be playing like 40 minutes the entire game when AD's out and LeBron's out and Westbrook maybe plays only 2 quarters. So Malik Monk's going to get his minutes. It's just when it comes time for the playoffs, it's going to be a Horton Tucker situation where he won't be playing too much, if any minutes. He'll come in late in the game and he'll just be in for one of those guys who need a rest. He's more of an insurance policy, but I think it's a good insurance policy to have because he could score. So it's going to be a nice guy off the bench for them.
Yeah, you said it right there. When the boys are sitting, that's when Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk are going to fucking go to work. But he's still young. What is he, 20? He was drafted, 2018, Chris?
He was drafted as a freshman. He was drafted as an 18-year-old. So, yeah, he's only 21. And he's still young. He's shown flashes of like Kevin Porter. Like, he can give you 40 points on a rare night. He had
what do you have, like 12 points last year or something like that in the limited role? Like, he's still young. Like the Lakers, they picked up a lot of veterans. So picking up a guy like this for a little down the line, I guess, because he's not going to play a whole lot this year, it's low-key a solid move for sure.
Yeah, and again, like I guess we'll talk. I want to close with Sacramento because they got Raquan Holmes, and he was probably not their best player, but the most underrated player last year for them. De'Aaron Fox absolutely balled the hell out. Do you guys see Sacramento like ever taking a step forward with this core, or do you just see them eventually just moving on with guys like Bagley and Hield and maybe even Fox?
They're going to move on, man. they're nice players, but like they're not good enough. The West is tough. Fox has got to carry most nights, and Barnes had a nice year, but when you look throughout the conference and certain other teams, it's bad mismatches. So I like the home signing. He's had a couple of good years since coming over from Phoenix, mainly because he's had the time to. So like he's really padding up the stat sheet. He definitely deserves it, but when I look at the team as a whole, it's tough, man. I see them in the same spot next year.
Yeah, same. Like I don't see it. Unfortunately for them, like there's too many good teams there, and man, they had a nice little run when they had White Chocolate, Chris Webber, Mike Bibby. Those times are the glory days for Sacramento's franchise, and I don't see like I think like they had DeMarcus Cousins when he was in his prime and rolling and one of the most dominant centers in the league, and then they moved on from him. De'Aaron Fox came in, Buddy Hield. It looked like this is going to be the new group, and they'll eventually move on from them and start fresh again. So I think it's another rebuild waiting to happen.
Oh my. Okay. So we're closing this with breaking news, and we knew it would happen. Thank God this was a little longer because then we would have missed it. Victor Oladipo is returning to the Miami Heat for another year. So, yeah, they might be better than Philly next year if Oladipo's healthy and rolling. So I guess I'll start with you, Pags. With Oladipo returning to Miami, what the hell does that mean for guys like Duncan and Hero? Like, how much playing time are they getting?
Well, he knows the system, so that's good. But yeah, they're gonna have to spread that shit out because wow, yeah, it was the same thing last year. How the hell did they manage last year? I think he's just gonna come right back in and do his job and I don't think he'll average around 20 because I think everyone on this roster can. So they're gonna have to spread that out pretty evenly. But yeah, they got another solid guard back, I guess. They got some depth going on there. Really, the Heat? Damn.
Yep.
That's no fun. I wanted to see a new team, but yeah, sticking there. That's the solid depth, man.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good move for him. After this year, he'll probably be in more demand, so it helps him get his stock back up. So it's a good move for them.
Take it away, Pags.
Oh, I don't close, buddy. I get benched at this time. Aulino, take us home.
Alrighty. Well, this was another fun episode. Next week, maybe we'll hear more about the Raptors, maybe another trade, or maybe something else happening in hockey. So stick around for that. We'll see you next week.